Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is a VR to Natalia Uroburos and her System Free Tarot hashtag. So I have thought about this for a while, and I think she mentions in her video also that maybe system is not the right word, because usually even when a tarot deck doesn't follow specifically Rider-Waite-Smith or Toff or Marseille, it has some sort of a system, but I think what she wants us to do is to find decks that kind of a bit more elusive, you know, they don't fit so easily into the Rider-Waite-Smith, so when you look at them, you cannot really recognize or be pulled straight away into the imagery that the Toff, Rider-Waite-Smith or Marseille decks carry with themselves, right? Because they kind of historical decks. So I have pulled a few tarot decks, and I will skip oracle decks. I have two tarot decks that are kind of, I treat them as tarot oracles, even maybe more than two. And I feel like these decks fit this category really well. So for example, I haven't used this deck forever, but the Botanical Tarot deck, it was a Kickstarter that I backed at some point last year, and it's by Jessica Bott, and I backed it because of the artwork and because I love plants. And it's a huge deck because it's a tarot deck and oracle deck all together, so it's like 120 cards or something, but I mixed all of them, and I just loved the artwork. I loved what she came up with artistically when it comes to depicting plants. So in the tarot kind of deck, you have, you know, the number and the name of the suit, and the suits of course have changed names. It's just impossible to follow this deck and get any help to recognize any type of familiar images that you might have known from, you know, Rider-Waite-Smith, Toff, or other tarot decks. So it's definitely a system free, and yet it follows tarot system. So in the book you do get description of the suits and also of the oracle deck as well. So trees would be the major arcana, flowers would represent cups traditionally, and crops would represent pentacles traditionally. Spices would represent, where are the spices? Spices would represent traditionally wands, and cacti would represent swords traditionally. And then we have those trees, which are the major arcana. So you have a system, but you know, it's totally different to everything else. And then there is poisons. This is a suit of toxicity and potential. Herbs, so herbs, I've got herbs here. That's the oracle card. So poisons, toxicity and potential. Herbs, encouragement and support. There is medicines. Oh, there's one with plantain. I love plantain. So medicines, suit of protection and power. And then we have mushrooms, which is the suit of change and capability. Come on. Yes, and carnivorous, which she added because the Kickstarter did well, is the suit of evolution and opportunity. So this deck is interesting to play with. I think it's quite hard to read, especially if you don't know much about the plants, because basically all you have is the color and the plant. And the booklet is quite skimpy on explanations. You just get like little descriptions, but you do get the name of the plant, the Latin name of the plant as well, so you can do your own research. But I do love the colors, and I do love the idea of the deck. It's completely, you know, completely offered to the plants, right? So it's really beautiful. So this is definitely one of the system-free tarot decks that I have. Another one that I have and use a lot is this Dream Dust Shamanic Tarot. I have been showing it off recently quite a while in a lot of videos because I truly love this deck. So this is an abstract deck, and it's a deck that probably would be also quite hard to read, but you do get a help. You get a keyword of what card you're looking at, and you get little kind of supportive potential inspirational keywords at the bottom. So some people might wanna, you know, trim it, but it helps me actually. But also you can really help yourself a lot by just reading those images intuitively and seeing, depending on the day, what this image reveals to you today, because it can change. You know, this sometimes can be two people splitting up, this can be a lantern, this can be a you know, a side road at the crossroads, it can be a bridge at some point, it can be a reflection of the sunset. You know, it can be so many things depending on your mood, on the day, on what you see on the specific day. So this deck is definitely wonderful. It does follow tarot structure, but I'm in love with these abstract decks right now. So this one is really amazing. Another one, of course, Natalia showed it as well, is Mysteries of Mary Tarot deck. It's really a wonderful, this one has definitely system of its own. Again, it does follow Rider-Waite-Smith system, but it's so different. You, if you read the book, you kind of really go on spiritual initiation journey when you work with this deck, and it follows the kind of Western Christian / Catholic tradition. So Tatiana does a great job in incorporating as many elements and religions and spiritual beliefs that got sucked in by Christianity over the years, but this deck is really beautiful and system of its own. I was thinking about this, what's the name of this deck? Malpurchase, what is it? I got a mental blank. I know that the creator of this deck has passed away now, unfortunately, but it is an amazing deck, which I will probably link the name below because I can't remember it now for the whole life of me. But it follows Rider-Waite-Smith, but hello, can you recognize anything? No, you cannot. It only shows the interior of the places of the homes. And it shows, yeah, like just spaces basically, and the energy of the space, you know, the colors, the feel. This is a deck that requires a lot of time to sit with this image because you're being pulled into an interior of a house. And that reminds me, you know, of Jung's like house being a psyche kind of, you know, you have a cellar, which is your unconscious, and then you go through these different floors, how you can explore yourself and your psyche. So this deck is pretty interesting to work with, and again, quite hard to read with because it's so untypical. What else? Well, I was thinking actually of Hoodoo Tarot, you know. It is a deck that definitely follows very closely Rider-Waite-Smith, but again, because it shows different subject matter, it shows different culture. I actually learned so much from the booklet and this deck, and the stories that the book shares. And even though it kind of, you know, resembles in many instances Rider-Waite-Smith, but also it is very different. It is very innovative in a sense, you know, and because of the stories it shares. I've got lots of cards. The story it shares, like for the sun, Big Mama, you know, it's different, right? And I think I highly recommend this deck to learn more about hoodoo, about approach to root work, about stories of like ancestral stories and divination as well. A great deck for divination. So yeah, take a look at this. Another interesting system-free deck is the Shining Tarot by Rachel Pollack, and again, it kind of follows Rider-Waite-Smith, but would you have guessed, you know? It is actually a wonderful deck that is based on rock and megalithic art. So she says here, and it comes with this big book, and it says that this tarot is based on tribal and prehistoric art from around the world and rooted in the wisdom and tradition of the tarot itself. The Shining Tarot grows from an earlier deck called Shining Woman. And it just has this kind of feel, you know, it has this feel for old artwork, for sacred sites, for our history, you know, universal history as humans. So it tackles and shows artwork and megalithic art from all over the globe, which is lovely. Another deck that I thought I'd like to share with you is the Tarot of the Spirit deck. So this one also, you know, maybe it feels a little bit more toughish or systemic, but it actually is such a great deck to study. And again, when you look at the artwork, you want, you know, kind of connected to either Toff or Rider-Waite-Smith or Marseille. So it has a system, but to me it's also kind of system free, and I love this deck. It's one of those decks that, you know, you just have and you play with it for a while, then you put it aside, then you reach for it again, then you learn a bit more. It also comes with this beautiful book, and it's a mother-daughter combination, which is awesome. Tarot of the Spirit, which is really extensive. Yeah, it's a really cool deck. So you can learn a lot about alchemy, you can learn a lot about a Kabbalistic approach to cards, and each archetype goes really deep with this deck. Another one that I wanted to share, which I feel like it's such an interesting system-free deck, is this William Blake Tarot, and I have shown this deck a few times already in some of my, you know, collaboration videos when I show a lot of decks. So I have this edition. I think there's a new edition. I have this edition that came out at some point with the book, but I think you can download the book from online, and you can purchase this deck on maybe at Burin's website. I'm not sure, that's the author. So the William Blake Tarot, just Google it and you will find this deck. And it's with William Blake's art, and it has kind of follows the structure of the tarot, but it has, of course, different suits, and it follows, you know, William Blake's kind of philosophy, let's call it. So the triumphs are the soul's journey and experiencing fall and regeneration, the cycles of eternity. And then we have something which is called the creative process suit. So there's painting, science, music, and poetry. So how cool is that? A little bit different, right? So we have music, and the music is the celebration of life force, feeling with the heart and soul, path of love and beauty. And then we have science, which is the challenge of self-understanding, striving to know self and world, and path of intellect and learning. There's poetry, which is the expression of eternal truth, to speak from prophetic inspiration, path of individuality and revelation. And then the painting, right? The embodiment of inner vision, giving form to spiritual light, path of sensation and spirit. So to be honest, I need to sit with this deck longer, more. The book is also really great, and goes quite deeply into different archetypes, into William Blake's poetry, stories. Every card has like a short description, and then it has this in the creative process, what can you do with the tarot card, and then it has some keywords, which also it's really quite fascinating. Another interesting one is the Tree Spirit Tarot. This is also a cool deck if you love trees. It's basically, I would call it like tarot oracle. So it follows Rider-Waite-Smith again, but hello, would you get it? So this is a deck that comes from, I mean, with like keywords, you know. So you get the number, the suit, which is changed, but you know, you 4 suits like in tarot, you get the name of what tree is depicted, and you get a keyword. So for some people it might be too limiting maybe, but in some way it's really a sweet deck, and it's kind of I don't know how to call it, because it's really soft, but it kind of is truthful as well, and it kind of gives you the messages delivered like nature would. Like it's kind of objective but embracing, but also, you know, not really giving you some special treatment for anything, you know. I don't know if it makes sense to you guys, but like very interesting, cool deck. I would call it system free, even though, you know, follows Rider-Waite-Smith, and a beautiful book that comes with it. It's by Laurel Virtuous Waters, and I actually recorded an interview with her, and I highly recommend to go and watch it on my YouTube channel on Inspired Tarot Map playlist. Okay, what else do we have? This, I guess, would be another example of system free tarot. It's Minoan tarot, and without the booklet I wouldn't be able to use it at all. It's based on like artwork found on Minoan pottery and Minoan art and Minoan artwork, or like walls and stuff. So it's really kind of simple, and it's beautiful. This connection to old goddess culture, you know, but as I said, it's by Ellen Lorenzi Prince, and she writes amazing booklets. So this booklet, it's like spot on, even if it's quite short. But yeah, in definition, it's really hard to read for me with this deck. Rose from Rose of the Soul Tarot, she has created a wonderful few videos on YouTube on this deck. So I highly recommend to check out her YouTube channel, Dance of the Soul Tarot, and she has been using this deck at some point and recording videos about it, and that's why I bought my deck. Another one that I thought it's interesting also is this Celtic Wisdom Tarot. And again, changed suits, you know, they all follow tarot, but this one shows just different stories. It's by John Matthew or Caitlin Matthews and John Matthews. I love the artwork, and it shares different Celtic stories. I love the majors in this deck. They are renamed, but they're really beautiful. So this would be for Judgment, the Renewer. I love it. Queen of Knowledge. So I think this deck is out of print, but the Temperance would be the Mingler. The majors are really cool. The Dedicator for the Hangman. The Lover. And the Spinner for the Wheel of Fortune. The Imaginer for the Moon. I love that. and so on. So the Empowerer for strength. So it's very cool. The Changer for the Tower. So the Celtic Wisdom Tarot. Yet another system-free deck. From the more modern decks, I think the Costario definitely, you know, fits into this category. It has such unique dreamlike images, especially the minors. They're very different. I was just talking about this deck recently. It suits itself great for dream work, for any type of creative work. It has amazing images. And I also have an interview with Carmen Sorrenti, so please hop on to this Inspired Tarot Map playlist and check out the amazing interviews with these amazing creators. So Costario, great deck. And when we on like this dreams, there is also this Mystical Dream Tarot by Janet Piedilato, and also it's based on her dreams. I think this deck is a dream deck, and the creator used images from her dreams, so I guess it's something that I'm totally okay with this deck being as it is, considering the subject matter. So it's really interesting deck, and I actually love using this deck. There is this Tarot of Holy Light as well, which I thought, even though it kind of, you know, this one refers to traditional alchemical, esoteric tradition of tarot, so often to references, it has references to Tarot de Marseille, to the Christian and alchemical esoteric knowledge, Western alchemy. So also you wouldn't say it's, you know, Rider-Waite-Smith, Toff or Marseille, but it's based on all of it. And it's definitely packed with esoteric knowledge and Western Gnosticism and Kabbalistic knowledge and alchemy. So this book, it's really quite fascinating. It's a bit of a, you know, heavy read at times, but it's like, I read it slowly, and some of the archetypes are just so incredible. I still remember the devil archetype that I read. I still think about this text and how hidden the feminine aspect was and how devilish it became. Anyway, that's a really interesting one. Natalia also mentioned the Nikola Techikoli deck, and I also would say that this deck is one of those, you know, system-free decks, because they use the artwork of Nikola Techikoli, you know, to kind of fit it into the tarot system, but it's really, some of the images you just go, how is that this, you know? But still, it's a very, to me, it's a very dark deck, and to me, this is a shadow work deck for sure. Also, you know, inner child work, but yeah, from not this kind of happiest side of the inner child work, but more you know, to work on some stigmas maybe, or shitty memories, you know, that we carry from our childhoods. What else do I have? I have this deck about past lives by Melanie. I also have interview with her, and this is the deck she created to read about past lives. So she just used images from the free, you know, websites, and she created some form of a system to work with, researching, exploring certain aspects of your past lives. Obviously, you know, it's 78 cards. It also follows a tarot system, but it's just an interesting take and interesting deck to explore if you're interested in, you know, finding more about this, if you follow that type of beliefs. I think Wild Messengers also belongs to this to these non-systemic decks. So again, follows kind of Rider-Waite-Smith, but you just get these beautiful animals. I love the backs of the cards. in some way the fronts, not because of the artwork, but the fronts feel a little bit like a letdown when you have this amazing back, you know, and it's feels also, it has the texture, it feels a little bit more like feels different, and then you turn it around and they just come out a little bit bland. I don't know why that is, because I find this artwork really beautiful, soulful, very intuitive, but somehow when you have these bags and then you turn it around, I don't know, the colors don't pop. There is just something about this deck. I remember when it came from Kickstarter, I was really excited about it, and then in the end my friend gifted it to me, but you know, there is just something that I felt like, what is it? There is just something about it that it's not quite, some of the cards more than others, but yeah, it's just not showing this kind of beauty of the artwork so much. So I don't know exactly how to put it, but this deck is definitely system free, and the book that comes with this deck, it's really beautiful, first of all. It's color, you know, and it has great text and like really psychological approach, and I swear I use this deck very often for readings for myself, for clients, and I just pull one card as like advice from the animal, you know, and the book has those invocations at every card, and they're so incredible. So let me just pull one, because this is like the best, seriously. So may it be a collective one. We have just had this panel at, you know, at Oya's Queen, for Oya's Girl, about inclusion and diversity in the community, talking about how the community can be more inclusive, how we can, you know, shift that systemic racism, and how we can do the work that needs to be done to include everyone and give them more opportunities. And that's what I pulled, number 4, and this is 4 of Earth. So let's see, 4 of Earth. So then the book has this little kind of, you know, signs of the elements on the side, and you just go and look for number 4. So this is a mouse, and the spirit of the mouse says, this invocation which I was talking about says, "Mouse spirit, help me take care of the details in my life so I can stand firmly on the foundation of my life and grow from fertile, well-tended soil." And she is the messenger from the root chakra, so she goes into describing different kind of why she picked this animal and what the animal does to be connected to this particular message that she shares. Big dreams are derailed when everyday details get lost in the shuffle. So basically, this card calls our attention to the details in our lives, and to check if what our basic needs for survival are right now. And then also there's this mouse speaks, when she shares the message of the mouse from the first person. So she says, "You may not appreciate my appearance in your life or reading upon first glance. I encourage you to look past any initial resistance, as these feelings are an invitation for deeper exploration. My message is about the small aspects of daily life which add up hugely over a day or a lifetime. The magic here is truly in the mundane. If you are looking for it elsewhere, you may be missing it right in the plain sight. Make it fun or point of pride for yourself, not to win the approval of others, to spruce up yourself or your space." So I really, really love this deck and its messages, and definitely I would call it a system-free tarot. I have a few more decks. So one is the Serpent Fire Tarot. Really good book, like little mini white book, but really well written. And I've got one of the editions, I can't even remember which one, because there were a few. Now she's also having the editions without those frames, with just the bigger images. But it's kind of this trippy deck, you know, and it has astrology in it, so again, definitely follows some form of, you know, Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, with probably Golden Dawn associations of planets, but it has this very modern, very, yeah, trippy is a good word, images. And I find this deck interesting. If I sometimes want to, you know, kind of get, I don't know, it's, yeah, it's intuitive. It is intuitive, and you can, you know, read it on so many different, in so many different aspects. So, yeah, totally different images. You wouldn't recognize any of the images from this deck and go, oh, I know, this is Rider-Waite-Smith, blah, blah, blah. So I have two more decks. One is the Ashara Tarot. A tarot forgotten. A few years ago, it was there was some talk about it. It definitely, this one follows the Thoth system, and you will recognize it based on the images, but also the images are so different. Then I think you know, you like the colors are different, the artwork is different, that you can still find it, it's just fun to use it. I find it maybe a bit more childlike or a bit more softer than Frida Harris art. I prefer the Thoth deck, the original Thoth deck, but I also love this deck for the colors, for what it shows, like how the colors are used. I love this. Some of the, you know, some of the images are so gorgeous. My camera is a bit funny. In general, this video, it took a lot of energy to record this video. So here you go. So you'd recognize Thoth, but also you can play with these images and, you know, have fun. There's also a book, a PDF book to this deck. It is by, what's her name, Sarah, oh, does it say here? Sarah Wheatley, yeah. It's from 2017. And these are the backs. So that's Ashara Tarot. Definitely, you know, a system deck, but system free in the sense that, like, it's different. It's images that give you a lot of depth, a lot of unusual original art. And yes, if you know Thoth system, great, because it might be helpful. But if you don't, you can still use this deck just based on color, your imagination, you know. That's interesting. It's just beautiful, beautiful colors, beautiful deck. So Ashara Tarot, and the last one, or last two actually, because I think El Goliath Tarot deck, I would call it system-free deck in a sense, because, you know, the images are so different, and also that he added the oracle cards to his deck. And yes, it follows the Rider-Waite-Smith, but, you know, some images may, like Three of Swords, may you know, remind you of the original deck, but most of these images are just so different and so unusual and all nature-based. Inspired by many different traditions and different animals. So El Goliath, here I showed you the second edition, and I have this one as well, the Le Tarot de Femme Erotique, and this is like again one of those tarot oracles, so it just has these vintage images of women. These are white women from like a vintage French, it feels like, you know, vintage French postcards. Quite, you know, lots of naked women, And the lady who did it, she added, you know, little kind of keywords, so you get cruel thoughts for 10 or 9 of swords. Ace would be the gift of the mind. 3 of cups would be grace. Unlock your emotions for the Emperor. Love changes for 4 of cups. So it's really cool. I liked working with this deck. You know, the goddess for sleeping, the Empress. So yeah, it's really interesting, and definitely kind of follows the system, but it is a little bit different and unusual deck. So I think that's it. That's what I'm going to share. I'm sure I could find more, but I think that's enough. That's a lot of decks. It's a fun thing to think about it, you know, like what's system free, how can you be free within a system? Because this is usually what I do. Like, I think I don't mind systems, because the more you know the system, the more you can branch out of the system. And that's what, for example, I teach in my intuitive tarot workshop, like how to read an image within tarot system, but yet use tarot system to kind of give you strength and foundation, so you don't go everywhere, but use also your intuition to pull out of images something fresh, you know, something different, something new, and then add maybe the systemic meaning to it. So I hope you had fun, and thanks Natalia for that kind of prompt to do the VR. And I speak to you another time. Bye.